There are places in Texas that almost feel like they don't want to be found. Mission Tejas State Park sits out here in the middle of East Texas, deep in the Pineywoods, halfway between Houston and Dallas, with nothing around it pushing you to come. There's no highways pointing the way, no billboards, and no crowds. And somehow, that's exactly what makes it worth the drive. The park puts out a trail map, every single point of interest marked on it. Ancient trees, historic sites, and wildlife, all of it hidden inside these woods. So I set one goal before I left San Antonio and drove 5 hours to get here. I wanted to see every single one and show you the beauty of Mission Tejas State Park. This is Mission Tejas State Park, and most people have no idea that it exists. So let's go find out why that's a mistake. What's up, YouTube? It's Matt with the Matt Out Here YouTube channel. You know that I'm from the Texas Hill Country, so I hopped in the car, I drove 5 hours, and I'm out here at Mission Tejas State Park in East Texas. I'm gonna be exploring the park, checking things out, and changing up my scenery and my environment for the weekend. So come along with me, and I hope y'all enjoyed this one. All right, y'all, let's go. This park is super empty right now, and I think I might be the only car or person here. Let's go. Mission Tejas State Park sits in the heart of East Texas, inside the Davy Crockett National Forest, about 2 hours north of Houston and roughly 2.5 hours southeast of Dallas. The park covers just over 650 acres of deep piney woods and quiet forest trails that feel like they belong to a different era. It's a small park by Texas standards, but what it lacks in size, it makes up for in character. This area has history layered into it. The name itself goes back centuries. Spanish missionaries passed through this part of East Texas in the early 1700s, and today the park offers hiking, camping, fishing, and a trail system that connects most of the major points of interest scattered across this property. The park puts out a trail map, and on that map there are 6 official points of interest. You've got the commemorative mission, a 1930s building that honors the original Spanish mission from the 1690s that gives this park its name. You also have the Rice family log home, a 19th century homestead that was actually relocated here and preserved. Then there's the mystery of the park, the CCC bathtubs, which nobody actually knows why they're here or who built them. And then you have the El Camino Real, remnants of an actual royal road that Spain built all the way from Mexico to Louisiana in the 1690s. Then there's Fire Tower Hill, where a fire watch tower once stood in the 1930s to protect this forest before it could burn. And lastly, there's the century pine, one of the oldest and tallest trees in the park, standing here long before anybody showed up. The map only tells part of the story. There are creek crossings, quiet clearings, and corners of these woods that don't have a number next to them, and some of those turned out to be just as worth stopping for. The first point of interest I explored was the Rice family log home, located fairly close to the park headquarters. In 1828, Joseph and Willie Masters Rice built a log home right along the El Camino Real, which was the old royal road cutting through East Texas. The men cut the logs themselves right out of the nearby woods, and Willie Rice drove a team that snaked them through the clearing for the house raising. They started building with one room, but over the years the family enlarged the cabin and raised 11 children inside these walls, and their home became known across the Republic of Texas as a place to stop for a meal or a night's rest on the San Antonio Road. Travelers, adventurers, and pioneers would often pass through the area, and this cabin was often their checkpoint. This land wasn't empty when Joseph and Willie Rice arrived. The Caddo had been living and farming in East Texas since the 800s, growing corn, beans, and squash, and building communities and developing trade networks long before any Europeans had set foot in the area. By 1828, they had already spent over a century watching explorers, missionaries, and now settlers arrive and claim land. After Joseph and Willie died, descendants lived here until 1919. Then a grandson shifted the structure and built a new frame house on the original site. For years after that, the old log home stored grain, farm equipment, and eventually a family automobile. The cabin was dismantled and moved 16 miles away to the park in 1974. And what you're standing in front of is one of the oldest surviving Anglo-American dwellings in the entire region. And that is pretty neat. From the Rice family log home, I headed out onto the Big Pine Trail, the main artery of the park that connects most of what I came here to find.
The moment you step into the woods, everything seems to change. The noise level drops, the light shifts, and suddenly you're moving through a forest that feels like it belongs anywhere else but Texas. The East Texas Pineywoods, they're different from what most people picture when they think of Texas. There's no desert, there's no scrub brush, and there's no wide open sky. And I didn't see one cactus in the region. What you get out here is a dense canopy, towering pines pushing straight up toward the light, and a forest floor layered with ferns, hardwoods, and creek bottoms that wind through everything. It's green in a way that feels almost unexpected for Texas. The loblolly pine is the dominant tree out here, and it's tall, straight, and built for the climate. But mixed into the forest, you'll find sweet gums, white oaks, and southern magnolias, all competing for the light that is able to break through the canopy above. In the spring, dogwoods bloom underneath the pines, and the whole forest takes on this soft, layered quality that's hard to put into words and a lot easier to just show you. The air is different from other parts of Texas too. It's a lot cooler than you'd expect, and there's a particular smell that comes with a deep pine forest, something between fresh-cut wood and rainfall. And the forest has a unique way of settling you down whether you're seeking relaxation or not. The forest is magical and unlike anything I've ever seen in Texas before.
It's interesting to be out here and see this landscape for what it is and think about the Caddo Indians hunting and trapping and moving through here on the Camino de Real.
From the Big Pine Trail, I connected to the Olin Matchett Trail to get to our next point of interest, which is a half-mile trail labeled Challenging. The slight elevation gain pulls you up into the highlands of the pine forest, providing a more over-the-top view of the deep pine forest.
The sun is starting to creep in through the pines behind me. It's kind of neat. I was able to get out here before the sun kind of creeped through, but now I'm getting tons of just light in here. The birds are singing, everything's kind of opening up and turning on for the day.
From the Olin Matchett Trail, I continued further up onto the Steep Step Trail, a 0.2-mile trail that includes a set of steps that carry you further up into the heart of the park. And with every step up, the forest pulls you in deeper. The Steep Step Trail was honestly gentler than I expected, but what it gave me instead of a workout was something far better. The sun was sitting perfectly out in front of me, cutting through the pines in long golden beams, lighting up the forest floor like something out of a painting. And at this point in the hike, I had not seen a single other person on the trail, and it felt like I had the entire park to myself. The Steep Step Trail connects you to the next point of interest on the list, and this one is kind of strange. And the next point of interest is rather interesting. It's the CCC bathtubs, and nobody knows why they're here. The Civilian Conservation Corps built this park in the 1930s, and their camp sat about a mile away. It was fully equipped with barracks and everything the workers needed, so bathing facilities out here in the middle of the forest didn't make any sense. Yet, here they are. Stone structures clearly constructed sitting quietly in the middle of the East Texas woods with no obvious explanation attached to them. The leading theory is that they were built purely as decoration. A landscaping feature, something to dress up the park grounds, may be a creative outlet for the CCC workers themselves, but that's still just a theory. Friends of other state parks have pointed out that similar features appear elsewhere, suggesting this might have been a regional design choice that just never got fully documented or explained. The park doesn't have the answer, and the official description calls it a mystery and leaves it at that. What do y'all think it is? So as I'm walking, I started thinking about why I even come out to a place like this. Sometimes I hike and I'm just treating it like a workout. I want to get cardio in, I want to move my body, and check the box on a workout. And that's great and all, but that's just the physical side of the adventure. The mental side is just as important. Like right now, no one around, fresh air, sun peeking through the pines, and the opportunity to problem solve and practice some gratitude. You can sort a lot out in a place like this, but you have to give yourself the opportunity to do so. And I'm not trying to convince everybody to drive 5 hours like I did to Mission Tejas State Park, but I do think we should all be rushing outside a little more often. Because if getting out here makes you even a little bit better, then that carries over into everything else you do. Your relationships, your work, and the way you treat people, it all adds up. And it doesn't always have to be a long hike or some huge adventure. Sometimes it's just stepping outside for 10 minutes and sitting on your porch. Maybe you start there, or maybe you finish there, but I promise you, you'll be a better person for it. And who knows, maybe one day you get the opportunity to come out to Mission Tejas State Park and explore. Don't be opposed to seeing how nature and the world around you can drastically improve your life and well-being. So I'm about an hour and a half into my hike here. I've already connected to a few trails and I've not come across one person. I guess this park's just super remote. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere, but there's nobody out here. It's just me. You know, having this place all to myself is pretty cool. I saw on social media a while back, one of the park rangers posted something and they were like, a lot of people never come out to Mission Tejas and never get to experience this because it's so remote. If you're coming out here, you're coming out here to do this and then maybe go see the Caddo Mounds and check out the Davy Crockett National Forest, but there's not a whole lot out here. You're at this midway point between Houston and Dallas, and you know, if you're coming out here, you're coming out here to hike, explore, recharge, get into nature, and relax. You're not coming out here for anything else. There's really not any big cities around here. If this park was anywhere else, it would be jam-packed. You'd have a line, you'd have to make reservations in advance. It would be chaos. But since it's out here, and probably not a lot of people may know about it either, you know, you can have this place to yourself. From the CCC bathtubs, I connected to the Cemetery Hill Trail and then connected to the Lightning Trail, and that brought me to our third point of interest, the century pine. When you approach this tree, you just stop. There's no other reaction you can have. You just stop and you look up. The century pine is one of the oldest and tallest trees in the entire park, and it's been standing here long before this was a state park, and long before there were even trails here. It was here when the Rice family was building their cabin 16 miles down the road, and it was here when the CCC workers were cutting steps into these hills in the 1930s, and I bet it knows the secret of the CCC bathtubs, but we can dwell on that another day. The century pine was here through every storm, every drought, every season this forest has ever had. The park's own description says it best. The century pine bears silent witness to over a century of change. If only it could speak. Think about what this tree has actually seen. The Caddo people moving through these woods, Spanish missionaries, settlers, loggers, and now me. And maybe one day you too. Every person who has ever walked through this forest has walked past this tree, and it just stands there, watching, holding on to every story it's ever witnessed. After the century pine, I kept moving through the forest, taking my time to explore all of the neat plant life and fungi. Here's the thing about the forest. The points of interest on the map are awesome, but the stuff in between is just as good if you're paying attention. Some of the plant life out here is really unique to this region. There's things out here you're just not going to see in central, north, south, or west Texas. And on some of the dead and fallen wood along the trail, you start noticing things. The fungus, the ferns, it's all unique to the area. The century pine had already set the tone, but there was still a lot more to see. I followed the Tejas Timber Trail, which carried me further into the park and at one point opened up to a pond with still water sitting quietly in the middle of all of these pines. It was a little unexpected and a little peaceful at the same time. After passing the pond, I connected to the Chimney Loop Trail, which was a 0.9-mile loop rated challenging. You're moving up and down through the hills under a heavy canopy of pines, and the trail feels a little less traveled than the other trails here in the park. And tucked into the woods is a standing chimney. A chimney alone in the forest, which to my surprise wasn't a point of interest on the trail map, but I believe it's deserving of one. The chimney is all that's left of an old hunter's cabin that once stood here. The walls are gone, the roof is gone, and everything that made it a cabin is gone. But the chimney is still standing, and someone built a cabin out here, deep in the East Texas Pineywoods, to hunt this land. They built a fireplace, stacked the stones by hand, and spent nights out here in the forest with nothing around them but the pines. If the CCC bathtubs could make the official point of interest list, and nobody really knows why they're here, I think this chimney should be included as a point of interest. The chimney has a story, it has history, and it maintains a physical presence here in the woods, and that is worthy of something. After exploring the chimney, I walked a short ways down to connect to our fourth point of interest, the El Camino Real. The El Camino Real de los Tejas is the oldest marked trail in the United States, and it's older than the Oregon Trail. The name translates simply to the Royal Road, and it stretches 2,500 miles, winding from Mexico City all the way through Laredo, San Antonio, and Nacogdoches, before crossing into Louisiana, and a remnant of it runs right through Mission Tejas State Park. What most people don't realize is that the road didn't start with the Spanish. Large portions of it were built on ancient Caddo and other indigenous trails that had existed for centuries before any European had set foot in this region. The Spanish didn't carve a road through the wilderness. They followed the paths that were already there. And despite the royal name, everyone traveled the El Camino Real. Spanish missionaries, French explorers, soldiers, settlers, and merchants all moved along the same corridor. And the list of names who walked or rode this road reads like a Texas history book. Moses Austin and his son Stephen F. Austin, Jim Bowie, Davy Crockett, Sam Houston, all of them passed through here on their way to shaping what Texas became. And what you can still see today in this park are the swales, those elongated U-shaped depressions pressed into the earth by centuries of wagon wheels, cart tracks, and the hooves of animals still visible after all this time. From El Camino Real, I connected to the San Pedro Spur Trail, and it brought me right to the heart of the park, the Commemorative Mission. This building was constructed in 1934 by the Civilian Conservation Corps, the same CCC crews that built the bathtubs, cut the trails, and shaped most of what the park is today. As a commemorative representation of Mission San Francisco de los Tejas, the first Spanish mission ever established in the province of Texas. And the original mission goes all the way back to 1690, after French colonists from Louisiana began pushing into Texas in 1685. Spain sent Captain Alonso de Leon and Franciscan Friar Damian Massanet deep into East Texas to counter further French expansion. By 1690, they made contact with the Caddo, who the Spanish called the Tejas, and right here in the heart of their homeland, established Mission San Francisco de los Tejas, the first of many Spanish missions in Texas. But it didn't last. Spanish soldiers created tensions with the Tejas people. Crops failed 2 seasons in a row, then an epidemic swept through and killed many of the natives and one of the Spanish missionaries themselves. By 1693, the Spanish decided to leave. They buried the mission's bells, set the building on fire, and fled back towards San Antonio. The exact location of the original mission has never been confirmed. Time, fire, and the forest erased whatever was left. So what stands here today isn't the original mission, it's a tribute to it, built over 240 years later by the CCC during the Great Depression. As I wrapped up exploring the mission, I still had one more point of interest to see before I wrapped up my adventure: Fire Tower Hill. From the mission, I made my way back through the RV area and through the camping section of the park. From there, I connected to Carl Lovett Trail, which takes you to Fire Tower Hill, the last point of interest standing between me and my completed adventure. And here's the thing about Texas. We are never going to run out of places to explore. The history alone could fill a lifetime of videos, and I genuinely love bringing the great outdoors right to your phone or TV. So if you enjoy these adventures, Texas history, and getting off the beaten path, hit that subscribe button, because there is an endless amount of Texas left for us to explore, and I would love to explore it together. And if this video brought you any value at all, if it made you want to step outside, plan a trip, or just slow down for a minute, like it, share it, drop a comment below, and hit that subscribe button. It helps get this channel in front of more people who could probably use a dose of nature just as much as we do. A fire watchtower once stood here in the park and was used to spot wildfires before they could get out of control and do serious damage to the surrounding forest. What's left now is just the base of the structure. The tower is no longer here, but the hill is still here. A place like Mission Tejas State Park has a way of putting things into perspective. You walk through the park and you've encountered the same landscape that the Caddo, the Spanish, the settlers, the CCC, and the El Camino Real all took a part in. Thousands of years of history packed into 660 acres of East Texas Pineywoods, and you realize pretty quickly that we are just one small speck on a very long timeline, and that the world is so much bigger and so much older than we give it credit for.
Well, folks, that's going to be a wrap on this video. I hope y'all enjoyed this one. Stay tuned because I got some neat trips planned and some cool stuff coming up. Until the next one, y'all, take care.